Something impossible is happening in one of the most inhospitable places on Earth. Unexplained signals are emerging from beneath the surface of Antarctica, as if something is trying to break through the icy silence. But what could possibly be breaking through miles of rock and ice to the surface without being detected for decades? These signals defy everything science understands about particles and energy. They shouldn't exist, and yet they're there. Emissions so bizarre that scientists are now avoiding interviews. What do they know that they're not telling? Can you imagine what might be buried beneath Earth's last icy frontier? Could we be facing a new force of nature, or something that has been kept secret for a long time? Comment below. What do you think is trying to come out of the depths of the Earth? And get ready, because what we're going to reveal in this video can rewrite the laws of physics as we know it. What the ANITA experiment found is not just an anomaly. It is a possible wake-up call, and the answer may lie in something that should never have been discovered. In 2006, NASA decided to test a bold hypothesis, detecting very high-energy cosmic particles reaching Earth from deep space. To this end, it created the ANITA experiment, an acronym for Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna. The idea was simple in theory, but extremely sophisticated in execution. A giant balloon was launched to float tens of kilometers above the Antarctic ice, carrying sensors capable of capturing signals generated when subatomic particles collide with the ice below. The expectation was clear: to record emissions coming down from space toward the planet, but what happened did not follow that plan. During the experiment, ANITA's instruments recorded something completely unexpected: signals rising from within. The Earth, not just any noise, but a highly energetic emission starting from the Antarctic soil towards the atmosphere. The signal had characteristics similar to neutrinos, particles known to pass through matter easily, but never in the opposite direction with such intensity. The most disturbing thing? The phenomenon repeated itself. The same type of signal was captured on another occasion. This eliminated the possibility of instrumental error or isolated failure. The scientific community went on alert. This type of occurrence did not fit into any current physics model. If the source was below the Earth's crust, then something was emitting an unknown energy that contradicted everything known about neutrino behavior. And this occurred in one of the most unexplored and restricted places on the planet. From then on, more questions arose than answers. What could generate this type of emission inside the Earth? Is there some structure that is channeling or amplifying these particles? And what's more, have these signals always existed, and only now have we been able to detect them? The repetition of events ruled out simple hypotheses like electromagnetic interference, equipment failure, or atmospheric noise. What remained was a dangerous gap between what the data showed and what science could explain. ANITA went from being a routine experiment to a global question mark, and that question mark remains unanswered. But perhaps the explanation lies in something even more disturbing: a breakdown in the laws of physics as we know it. What if the signal isn't just coming from Earth, but from something that inhabits a layer of reality not yet recognized by modern science? For modern physics, there are rules. They were built over centuries of observation, testing, and validation. One of these rules states that neutrinos, particles with almost no mass and that rarely interact with matter, are capable of crossing planet Earth. Yes, but always with a loss of energy, and almost never with detectable behavior in directions opposite to that expected. What was recorded by ANITA contradicts all of this. The signal that came out of the Antarctic ice had characteristics that shouldn't exist. The energy was too high. The angle was completely abnormal. By standard physics, these particles couldn't be leaving the Earth, as if they had passed through its entire interior, including the core, without being interrupted or altered. This isn't a matter of theoretical interpretation. It's simply something that shouldn't happen, period. Mathematics, particle physics, and current models don't support this kind of event. It is as if there were a flaw in the code of reality as we know it. Either we are facing a phenomenon that defies the symmetry of physics, or the experimental data itself is reflecting a dimension of phenomena that has not yet been catalogued. Some physicists have tried to force explanations, perhaps a new property of neutrinos, an unknown variation of particles, but none of these hypotheses has survived technical scrutiny, because, to make sense, it would be necessary to rewrite the foundations of physics that have been established since Einstein, Feynman, and other giants of science. And when that happens, the world either accepts a scientific revolution or ignores it until new evidence makes it impossible to continue pretending it never happened. And now, I want to hear your thoughts. If science can't explain it, what do you think is really emitting these signals beneath the Antarctic ice? Do you think we're looking at a flaw in our scientific models? Or is there something deeper and perhaps more dangerous hidden down there? Share your theories in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think, because while many try to silence this mystery, some clues begin to point to something even more disturbing. What if these signals are linked to structures or intelligences that existed long before our civilization? The anomalies detected by ANITA were not confined to scientific reports. They went beyond the limits of known physics and entered the realm of frightening or revolutionary possibility. Some of the boldest minds in science have proposed that we may be looking at the first real evidence of a new physics, a physics in which particles interact with forces and dimensions that we do not yet understand. According to this line of reasoning, the signal would not only be breaking our known laws, but revealing the edges of a more complex universe, one in which other realities coexist with our own without us even realizing it. Other researchers, however, have taken an even bolder path. What if what has been detected is not simply the result of a new form of energy, but rather the presence of something physical buried in the ice? A structure, an artifact, a type of technological installation that does not belong to our civilization, nor to our time. Something that has remained sealed for thousands of years and that is now, for some reason, beginning to activate. The hypothesis is not comfortable, but it must be considered. The signal may not be just noise, it may be communication. Satellite images suggesting geometric formations beneath the ice reinforce this suspicion. There are symmetries that cannot be explained by natural processes. Could it be that the frozen continent is hiding the remains of an advanced civilization, perhaps one that predates our documented existence? Or even stranger, could it be that this structure was never human? The idea of non-terrestrial technology buried in Antarctica has been gaining ground in alternative science forums and is rightly arousing growing concern. There is also a less fantastical but equally disturbing middle ground theory. The signal could be a side effect of profound changes deep within the Earth, alterations in energy fields or underground structures that have never been detected before. The planet is constantly changing, but if this signal is part of a larger process, we may only be beginning to understand the consequences. What makes all of these hypotheses so disturbing is that none of them can be safely ruled out. Science has yet to offer a definitive explanation. And in the meantime, the signal continues. There is then a question that hangs in the air and can no longer be ignored. If we weren't the ones who put it there, then who was? Antarctica, contrary to what many people think, is not just an icy void at the end of the planet. For centuries, this isolated continent has sparked theories, suspicions, and observations that defy simple explanations. One of the greatest enigmas involves the famous Piri Reis map, dated 1513. This document, attributed to an Ottoman admiral, shows details of the Antarctic coastline, free of ice, and most intriguingly, these lines coincide with modern surveys, made using ground-penetrating radar, revealing the subglacial contour of the continent with astonishing precision. How could this be possible centuries before the official discovery of Antarctica and current technology? It didn't stop there. Satellite images analyzed in recent decades have revealed formations with unusual symmetry, as if they were pyramidal, structures partially buried by ice. Experts have tried to attribute these images to natural formations, but the geometric repetition and right angles continue to fuel debate. The continent that should have been just rock and ice began to look much more complex. In addition to the technical data, there are historical accounts that defy common sense. Ancient records mention lands beyond the frozen south, inhabited by unknown peoples. Some tribal traditions from cultures that, theoretically, never had contact with the continent speak of sacred regions sealed by eternal ice, where the ancients sleep until the time is right. These legends, often ignored by academia, are now resurfacing with greater weight as the signal captured rekindles unanswered questions. What further fuels the mystery is the restricted access to the interior of Antarctica. Very few expeditions are allowed to go beyond certain geographic limits, and the information released to the public is filtered by institutions that rarely reveal more than the basics. This extreme control raises suspicions. Are they trying to protect something or hide it? What if Antarctica is not just a frozen wasteland, but a time capsule sealed to prevent something forgotten from resurfacing? Perhaps the signal detected is not the beginning of a discovery, but the end of a carefully maintained silence. In a world where almost everything around us is a superficial layer of reality, each new piece revealed demands attention and courage. The simple fact that you are here, following this information, already shows that you are not satisfied with the ready-made versions of the story. And when content like this comes to light, revealing what may be hidden beneath miles of ice, the algorithm needs to understand that it matters. So leaving Terrifies more than a gesture. It is a way of keeping alive the research that challenges conventional wisdom. It is his way of saying, I want more truths beyond the surface. His like help. This video reach those who also don't accept shallow answers. But there is an uncomfortable detail to this story. A little discussed connection between these enigmatic signals and strange behavior within the scientific community itself. The scientific community's reception of the phenomenon was marked by an uncomfortable silence. Officially, the institutions responsible confirmed the detection of the anomalous signal, but treated the case as a simple statistical irregularity. However, behind the scenes, the reaction was quite different. Researchers involved in the ANITA project reported heated internal meetings, where many refused to accept that the event could be dismissed with conventional explanations. The possibility that something unknown was occurring beneath Antarctica generated more tension than enthusiasm. Rather than open the data up for public investigation, much of the technical information was archived without any clear justification. This fueled suspicions. Several independent scientists tried to access the raw material from the mission, but were met with unusual restrictions and denied access under the pretext of national security. This raised alarm bells in the alternative community. If there is nothing to hide, why so much secrecy? The most intriguing thing is that, even in the face of a discovery that could open new paths for particle science, no major collective effort was mobilized to repeat or deepen the experiment. The subject was hushed up at conferences, and in high-impact scientific journals, it was barely mentioned. It is as if the order was to discredit the event before it became a theory too serious to be ignored. This behavior contradicts traditional scientific logic, where an anomaly of this magnitude should generate an avalanche of studies. Instead, there was a retraction. This opened space for a new line of questioning. Could what ANITA detected go beyond what current science is willing to accept? Or could the answer have already been found, but is being carefully controlled by larger interests? After all, if there really is something extraordinary beneath the ice, what impact would this revelation have on governments, religions, and power structures? And most disturbingly, why have some of the researchers involved disappeared from the media and stopped commenting publicly on the project? There is a possibility that few dare to consider: a connection between these signals and geophysical changes that have already begun to occur without apparent explanation. So far, what seems like a scientific curiosity may actually be the first sign of something much more serious. When we talk about particles emerging from the ground into space, violating fundamental laws of physics as we know it, we are not just dealing with a miscalculation. We are potentially facing a profound disruption in the systems that sustain the stability of the planet. Some experts suggest that these signals could be evidence of unknown underground activity, possibly linked to changes in the composition of the Earth's core. Something that, if confirmed, could drastically alter the planet's magnetic field. And the magnetic field is not just a technical detail. It is responsible for protecting the Earth from solar radiation, keeping the climate relatively stable, and ensuring the proper functioning of technologies such as satellites, airplanes, and power grids. In addition, geologists have begun to record small fluctuations in seismic behavior in areas near Antarctica, although the causes are still considered inconclusive. The question remains: are these signals associated with a growing instability of tectonic plates in the region? Or are they symptoms of an unknown energy source trying to manifest itself? Another, even more provocative hypothesis is that the signal represents an energy shift that affects biological patterns. Some researchers have begun to study the impact of high-energy radiation on living organisms, and early simulations show possible cellular changes in response to certain types of emissions. If the phenomenon continues to intensify, it could pose real health risks on scales that are not yet understood. And although the scientific community avoids admitting this publicly, behind the scenes, the mood is one of alert. What was previously treated as a simple statistical anomaly is now being monitored by sensors from multiple agencies, including the military, with contingency protocols being discreetly reassessed. The question that is increasingly becoming more and more disturbing is not what was detected, but rather what chain reaction could this phenomenon trigger if it continues to evolve. Because when science has no answers, but security systems begin to act, something deeper may be at work, and the very absence of explanations opens the door to a new, unsettling, and as yet unproven possibility. What if these signs are the first effects of a silent global transformation, something that has already begun, but is still hidden beneath the ice? This isn't the kind of thing you see on your timeline every day. We're talking about a signal that could rewrite our understanding of Earth, space, and perhaps even reality itself. You're part of a select group who are about to understand something most people don't even know exists. Share this with a friend who loves scientific theories, cosmic mysteries, and the unknown. Let's spread the word before it disappears under the ice, like everything else they try to hide from us. Beneath miles of compact ice, where nothing should vibrate, make sounds or signals, something is moving. The pulse, picked up by the sensors, was not isolated. It repeated itself, then it weakened, and now it is stronger. The science team monitoring the transmissions initially thought it was a technical glitch, but the data was intact. The signal pattern was too consistent to be random, but too incomprehensible to be natural. The frequency did not correspond to any common geological phenomenon, nor did it match any known activity in the Earth's crust. It was as if something down there was trying to make itself visible, audible, or understood. Algorithms that tried to decode the pulses found curious repetitions, almost as if they were variations of the same call. Skeptical scientists argue that it could simply be abnormal magnetic activity, but even they avoid interviews. Many have left the project without explanation. Others, it seems, have been instructed not to comment further on the raw data captured. There is growing unease about what lurks in the frozen depths. Antarctica's ice is not just a time capsule. It also isolates, silences, and hides. But now it seems that this isolation has been broken. Something that has been quiet for too long now wants to be noticed. The pattern of emission has intensified and occurred at shorter intervals, as if the emitter, whatever it is testing our reactions. Or worse, waiting for a response. Would you believe it if someone told you that the greatest scientific mystery of our time is not on Mars, nor at the bottom of the oceans, but beneath your feet, buried in ancient ice? What we are hearing may be just the beginning, because in the end, the greatest sign that something is alive is the sound of insistence. And this insistence raises an inevitable and disturbing question. Is whoever or whatever is down there really waking up? The signal came, was recorded, analyzed, and silenced. But what remains is the echo of what no one wants to comment on. The discomfort is not in the data, but in the absence of answers. When renowned scientists avoid the topic, when reports disappear or are censored, and when the most important questions are ignored, silence ceases to be absence and becomes a message. A message that perhaps says, "You are not ready." Now that you know what's happening beneath the planet's coldest and most isolated surface, there's only one question left. Why isn't this mystery being investigated with the urgency it deserves? The answer may lie in what hasn't been said yet, or perhaps in what never will be. Being part of this is more than just watching videos. It's entering a space where forbidden questions find space, where doubts echo louder than certainties. So activate the bell and sign up now. Here, each theory is an invitation to see beyond what has been taught. Each content will take you deeper to the point where science and mystery collide, and nothing seems safe anymore. And now, with all that you've just discovered, brace yourself, because there's an even more disturbing, more hidden, and much more urgent question waiting for you right around the corner. Click on the video that is appearing on your screen and continue this immersion. What is about to be revealed can completely change your perception of the universe.